Well, welcome. Today we have a show that I'm going to classify as a happy bummer. Happy for what's happening with Pete and a bummer that we're losing him. But why don't we start with an introduction?
Hey, yeah, this is our last show together, 12 years, right? Peter Boucher. I am the outgoing Milford Public Schools athletic director for the middle school and high school. Yeah,
We'll go through the history, but
sure.
why?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Just to be clear with everybody, I wasn't looking for a job. I wasn't, this was a company that reached out to me and said had been hired by the new district to basically say, hey, we can't find a qualified person that can do all of the things that we want them to do: wellness, fitness, family consumer sciences, health and phys ed. And so they checked in. I listened to them. They encouraged me, to put my resume together, and so I did. It was interesting to me. It was curious. Um, they sent that forward, and then lo and behold, obviously the district wanted to talk to me, and I did. Obviously I did chat with them, and we talked about it and what would I do. I've been a previous wellness director, K to 12 wellness director before in Canton. Before I was a principal, and I really did like the job. And one of the things, again, to be brutally honest, was this would be a major change for my family, right?
You get to see your family again.
Yes, I have dinner every night with my oldest son now, and I work down by my older son who goes to Bridgewater State, so I stop and have dinner with him twice a week, and it really, that was really the only thing. Not, I shouldn't say the only thing, but that's really was the driving force. I love Milford. I love the kids. I love the families. I love the coaches. I love everything about this town. But getting my two boys back. On a regular basis really was the driving factor for me. And then the new challenge, I feel like 12 years ago, Milford had a directive from me, and that was to get us competitive in the Hockomock League and really help us sort of facilitate and evolve into, the toughest league in New England. And I felt that we've done that. And just really there's 24 schools in this district, so it's a big undertaking, but that's, I love challenges.
What is this position?
So it's the director of health and wellness.
But what does that mean? I mean, an AD.
Great question.
An AD.
Yes,
Over
right.
12 years we learned.
Yes, yeah, no, good point. So I'm working with teachers. So I work during the day. I work with all the health and wellness teachers in the district. So I'm working on curriculum. I'm working on mentoring. I'm working on wellness in the entire city. So I'm working with all sorts of nurses and support groups in the city, coordinating that into sort of like a wellness policy, the anti-bullying policies, all of those things that really go into making a comprehensive experience for a kid K to 12. And that really was my passion, coming out of Bridgewater State and way back in the dark ages of 1993. That's what I was doing, teaching phys ed and health, coaching in the afternoons. So what it's done is it's brought me back to my roots. And so that challenge, right, working with teachers again, and again, trying to provide this wellness base for kids, K to 12. And then, you add in, I get to see my two kids on a daily basis, it's, my youngest is going to be going off to college probably in a year or two. I think he's going to stay local. So, it's nice being home in the evenings. To be truthful, it's been about a month. I don't really necessarily know what to do with myself every evening, but there's no weekends, no holidays. We did a lot of Monday night holiday games here, so I'd come in and it was just like a regular day. But after 12 years of that grind, and I'm not complaining, I loved the job. I loved the kids. I loved competing. I think at my age, it just felt like, okay, this is a good challenge that's more like 9 to 5, 8 to 4, and maybe they said like one meeting a month at night. Okay,
Yeah, that's nothing.
no, and I'll be honest, I'm getting back in shape. I'm going to start racing again, doing some running and really start to compete again. So that was a big sort of piece of the puzzle for me too, because I still feel like
Well,
I got a
things
little bit left.
changed because when I first started out, my darling bride and I were living in Paris. We were on the road
Yes.
3 weeks out of 4.
Oh, man.
So we'd take off for 20-day trips.
Wow.
Back then, I mean, it was exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, having dinner on the banks of the Tigris Euphrates.
Who wouldn't want to do that?
Going to Babylon. But as I got older and had kids,
It changes everything.
you couldn't convince me
No.
that, you know, I'd never really traveled because Sharon was always with me. So it was the two of us together going all over the place.
Yeah.
Doing it by myself and not seeing the kids.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Like,
So I can remember what it was like, and I can see what it's worth to say, hey, I get to see my boys again.
yeah, and it's, they grew up watching Milford games, and they're sort of like Scarlet Hawks in spirit, and but it wasn't the same. I wasn't having dinner with them. I wasn't, I missed some stuff. I did, and it bothers me, but I don't regret. I knew what this job would take if you were going to be successful 60, 65 hours a week. And at that point, my family was on board. They know that Dad likes to compete. Dad loves athletics, and this will be a good job, 20 minutes down the road, 15, 18 minutes down the road, whatever. But I've gotten to a point now where they're young adults, and it's really fun spending time with them. And, I want to enjoy that before they go off and have their own families. And then I'm just going to be, whenever a grandpa can, babysit when they decide to have children and stuff like that. So it felt like the right time to do that,
Now you're saying 15, 20 minutes down the road. This is in New Bedford.
Yeah, so 15, 20 minutes is Milford. I live outside of Milford. Yeah, so I'm close to an hour, like 55 minutes. But I love WEEI in the morning. Sometimes I call the show, and then in the afternoon, it's I'm usually making phone calls on the ride home.
WEEI.
Yes, yeah. They're in Boston. I listen to the Sports Animal and WEEI. I love both of them going back and forth. So I just love to listen to them. Just banter and argue all morning about Boston sports. I love that. So it's kind of cool. It's a nice way to wake up driving and listening to that. So.
Yeah, for me it was start off in the morning with Fox News.
Yeah.
Halfway to work, change over to CNN.
Yes, you get both sides.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yes. Yeah, right, exactly.
And when I got tired of both of them, go to the BBC.
Yes. Oh, that's probably a good plan too. I could probably do that as well. Get some real world information. Wouldn't be a bad idea.
But an hour drive each way.
Yeah, and I'm still home for dinner. That's the thing. Like, I still get home. It's still light out. Sometimes he and I will have dinner outside. My youngest, he's a senior in high school. So that's it's that part of it has been really, really nice. Not seeing the kids and coaches every day has been really, really hard. Because when you have the school day, you're working on clerical stuff, you're working on scheduling, you're working on referees, buses, officials. A kid came in late, you got to clear them. Was that appropriate? Can they practice? There's all sorts of things that parents are checking in. They've got questions. Coaches are checking in, making sure that we're ready to do what we need to do. Your materials, equipment on a daily basis. But when the bell rang, that was like the witching hour for like 20 minutes, but it was awesome because you were sending teams off to battle outside of Milford, and then you were prepping for, the wars that we would have right here in Milford. And for me, that was the best time of the day because the kids were getting ready, and, I always said practice hard to win easy. You don't win on game day. Everybody wants to win on game day, but it's the days, weeks, and months, and for some of them, years in advance, preparing for that Tuesday game or that Friday game or whatever. And, just being on the sidelines was really, really, it was just a thrill. I loved being that close.
So what's a typical day going to be for a wellness director?
So that's a great question. So for me, there's a lot of meetings. There's 24 principals to deal with when you want to run a program where it's district-wide.
There's 24 schools in New Bedford?
24 schools, yeah. Yep. 18 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and 3 high schools. So there's the one major New Bedford high school, but then there's 2 sort of alternative high schools. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emailing, a lot of working with teachers. And they have been without a wellness director for almost 2 years because they couldn't find somebody that had the skill set to do everything that they wanted them to do. And, I felt really good about that. I've done some really unique things in my career that have set me up to be really well-versed in the wellness world, but also in the athletic world, too. So, that was I've done both now. Now, I did the teaching and coaching, then I went to the athletic director situation. Now I'm back in the wellness world. So it's a new challenge, and I'm invigorated by that. But it's a lot of planning. It's a lot of working with teachers and just checking in, making sure they have what they need. The younger teachers making sure that they're, using best practices and working with the kids and all that. So I'm still working with kids, but not as directly as I was. So I miss that. I do miss that component in Milford. I do, but it's busy. I can tell you that. But the cool thing is, like around 3:30, 4 o'clock, the busyness ends because the teachers don't really want to talk to their director, right? They want to go home and have their lives too, and their kids and their families and the things that they're doing. So there's not that second half of the day, which I really enjoyed here, and I do miss. But yeah, it's a different kind of busy. But we'll see how it works out. So far it's been a fun challenge, but I'm still trying to get used to the new lifestyle.
When you first came to Milford, you had a philosophy of student athlete
Yes, sir. Yes.
that you wanted to implement.
Yep.
Have you done it?
I feel like we have. 12 years later, we instituted the core values, right? Relentless pursuit of excellence was number 1. 2 was championship sportsmanship. And 3 was Scarlet Hawk 24/7. We talked a lot about that when I started. I'm still thankful for Nick Zakili. He helped me get the posters up and the banners all around the school. And, I really pushed that, and thankful for all the coaches, all the kids, all the families who embraced that. We always said, like, you got to do your day job if you want to do your afternoon job. And, do you have some missteps and some bumbles and hurdles, and do kids become ineligible every once in a while? You do. But I feel like we did a really good job of, basically saying, hey, look, and you've said this a lot on the program too. You and I have agreed on this for 12 years. Less than 1% of these kids, even less than that, are going to go on to really do anything, even after college. Like we know, the whole town knows, we're 3 or 4 times the national average. And we've always been that way. That's not really anything I felt that I did. The previous coaches, athletic directors, all the legends from this town, they all did that too. But we just wanted to perpetuate that and live up to the Milford name, right? A lot of kids are playing college sports, but a lot of them aren't going to go on after. You got to have a job, right? You got to do something. You and I had to we all loved playing sports, but we had to find a job that worked for us because you got to pay your bills. You want a place to sleep and live, and you want to drive a car, or all that fun
And then
stuff.
you have those kids who are unreasonable because they want to be fed every day.
Yes,
clothed.
yeah. They want 3 meals, right? Doggone it, like damn. And so no, I feel like we did, and I feel like the kids understood. Like, you are student athletes. I don't think anybody in 12 years could ever hear me say that's an athlete. That's one of our student athletes, because that was so important. Former principal, right? 4 years as a principal before I came to Milford, and it's critical. So the kids knew, and there's a higher calling when you're a student athlete, right? Like, you have to behave during the day. You have to conduct yourself accordingly. You have to get good grades. You have to pay attention. We want the teachers in Milford saying, hey, that kid's a good football player and a good academician. That kid's a good softball player. That kid's a good track runner. Behaves in class. Helps other kids. Supports the teacher. In the cafeteria, walking through the halls, in the library. We wanted to perpetuate that because that was the Milford mystique, and I feel like we did that. And with a tremendous amount of help from the kids, the coaches, the teachers, the administration, school committee, everybody was in, finance committee, right? Everybody was involved. And that's what's different about this town. I've said that for 12 years. Look, I graduated from a school in the Hockomock League. I coached there for 15 years, right? I'm in the Hall of Fame over there. And I still say, I've worked in 3 schools in the Hockomock League over 30 years, and this town's a true sports town. I've always said that, and I will remain. I'll continue to say that, right? A lot of towns will tell you, if you can convince us that you need something, we'll fund it, or we'll find a way to build it. And I have found in other towns, not Milford, you might show up on a Saturday morning and you think there's people there to build that clubhouse or that dugout. Guess what? People didn't show. Not enough people showed, or there's not enough materials. I can tell you in 12 years, nobody ever said no here. Nobody. Like, if we needed something for the kids, either the boosters or the school board, the school committee or administration or somebody in town, that's the difference here. People stepped up and said, We'll get you the wood, we'll get you the cement, we'll get you the dirt, but we'll get you the people power. And I can tell you, it's a 500-0, a winning record that people always showed up in this town, always. You're part of you knew, like, you guys would find the money, or the school board would find the money, or the superintendents, the 3 superintendents that I work with have been tremendous, would find the money. Or the principals at the middle school, the high school, all 4 of them have been amazing. Find the money, right? Or if you could just build something, like we did a lot of the time, people would donate, and there'd be too many people that would show up. You'd have to say, hey, we're going to go in groups. This group's going to take a break while this group hammers nails, or this group breaks. And, it's a special place. And I really and truly believe that. And I'm glad that I had 12 years here, and I'm going to try to stay, minimally involved. I'd like to go see some games and stay on the Hall of Fame committee, and do as much or as little as I can in the time that, I'm living next door.
You mentioned that one of the roles that you played is watching out for kids who are disqualified. Does Milford have an average problem, above average, below, of kids?
Like academically?
Well, I want to play sports,
Yeah.
and if I don't meet certain criteria, one is a grade average.
GPA, yes, yeah.
Are there other qualifications?
Yes, attendance, right? So those are great questions, and the entire district takes this very, very seriously, K to 12. Yes, the main 2 components would be the GPA, right? Having the 24 Carnegie units, making sure that, you have a grade point average that is acceptable, right? That's set by the MIA and Milford. And then there's the amount of classes that you're taking. You can't just take 2 classes and be passing 2 classes. You got to have a full schedule. And then, then you have the attendance, which Milford takes very, very seriously. You can't just show up at 10 o'clock in the morning every day, even though that's half the day. The MIA in Milford says you have to be there half the day. But basically, you got to be here when the bell rings. Every once in a while, yes. Do you have car troubles? We actually, a couple years ago, we had a young man who was a senior that had to get his grandfather out of bed. So he would show up like 7 minutes late every day, or 3 times a week, something like that. And I'm not naming names. I adore that young man and his family. So we made a dispensation for that, because that's real life, right? That it's great what he's doing, and he could make up those 7 minutes,
Well, a lot
right?
of the immigrant kids
Yes.
have to take care of their siblings.
Get them on the bus. Get them off the bus. Yes, you're
I've
spot
heard
on.
over and over how so-and-so is always late,
Yes,
but that's because the bus for his brother or sister comes afterwards.
correct. And we would work on that. We would be as collaborative as we could. Every school in the country has a couple of kids that misstep and maybe don't take things seriously, or they have a real life situation at home where their grades aren't just where they need to be, so they got to sit out. They do, and we do that, and we work with them. And the school committee was great a couple of years ago. We used to have a rule that you couldn't practice if you weren't eligible, and then we kind of said, like, well, you know what, those kids won't come back. So they could practice in the program, but they could not play games, meets, matches, or scrimmages. So that was a way, like if a kid became ineligible, like this happens a lot in the fall, football, cross country, and postseason for all the other teams. Sometimes the grades come out and it's like, ooh, where are we at? Like this is a challenge. But if a kid did become ineligible, 99 out of 100 times we would say, you're going to continue practicing. You better get your butt in gear for the next season, or next year, because you're important. Some of these kids playing on a team is probably 1 or 2, like on most important things that they do during their high school career. And it's a good leverage piece to say, if you don't do your day job, you can't do your afternoon job.
Well, you start looking at some of the values that they learn.
Yes.
The Hawk
Real life.
24/7. If they qualify, because I found out that 50% of the kids qualify for free lunch.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
you get free
It's a big
lunch
number.
anyway,
Yes.
but the fact that you qualify says your family is earning less than $35,000 a year for a family of 4.
Yeah. That's
That-
hard. That's hard,
I don't
right?
know how you survive.
I don't know how one person could live on that side, right? So, but they're struggling, they're doing it, and I'll add in, the school committee did a great job by they did away with user fees, and I think finance committee and everybody, superintendents, that we've had, the 3 superintendents during my time, all have had a piece in that, and that was a great decision. Because for some kids, we always had waivers and whatnot, but some families were too proud to ask. Kids just didn't come out. So taking away that barrier was fantastic, and that's a great way to help families and support families.
Well, when we talked about it, you wouldn't not let a child participate in math or chemistry because they can't afford a textbook.
Great analogy. Great analogy.
At
Yes.
the end of the day, we're all tight on money, but like you said, the one thing this town has always done is take care of its kids.
They do. They do. And I've always said, I kind of, it's a play on words, but I mean it because I've been around community use. I see what they do with their programming for the more senior population. I see what they do with kids in the summer, during the year, little kids throughout the season. I've always said Milford takes care of their kids ages 1 to 100. They take care of everybody. This town has a really, really great model. And I've lived in towns, I've been in other communities where they don't do that, and it's a struggle all the time. But this town plans well, and they have a vision, and that's a good place to be.
It's hard because you start looking at some of the towns around us, and they're constantly using what I refer to as profanity.
Yeah.
The words 2.5 override and
Yes.
debt exclusion.
Yep.
So if you're trying to raise enough money to buy textbooks, it's hard to then extend that.
That's a
So
problem.
it comes down to math, English, soccer.
Yeah.
I don't like it,
Yeah.
but the athletics sometimes has to take a back seat.
No, that's true. And I, as the AD, I could live with that, and as a coach, I could live with that. But what I would challenge some of the other towns, and insert any town that has typical consistent challenges like Milford does not. There's going to be challenging years. I think the next year or two is going to be challenging in Milford, but it's going to be challenging for everybody because of certain economical situations going on in the region and the country. But the problem is you have other towns and other districts that have trouble every year.
Yeah.
Every year. And there's no reason for that other than those towns don't have the vision and the planning that Milford has. And that's the difference with people coming back to Milford who grew up here or staying here and the town having an identity,
Well, this year is the first year in a long time that we're really facing a fiscal challenge.
Yes, yeah, yep.
And it's amazing because right now, it's no secret, the finance plan calls for the schools to cut their spending.
Yeah.
And when I say cut, is a 2% increase, 2.5 to 3% increase. Well, the labor contracts, which take up 80%
Yeah, so
of the school budget, of Craig's budget,
Yeah,
are going up 3-4%.
yeah.
So if you're only giving them 2 or 3%,
It's hard.
and it's hard because our governor, God bless her soul, has said she's going to put more money towards helping the immigrants and more money toward, and yet came out with Chapter 70
Yeah.
proposal,
Yeah,
The
I saw that.
the state donation to our education of 0.6%.
Yeah, come on.
Now, if inflation on a good
Was 3,
plan
2
is
or
3, and you're only increasing 0.6,
Yeah.
it means you got to cut.
It's not really an increase, right?
No.
Like, it's not. It's
It's
just
technically an increase because you're getting
more
0.6
money,
more money,
but
but
you're not keeping up with.
you're not keeping up with expenses.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
But, I'm very happy that we met with the school committee and we don't have anything. This is the time of year where the finance committee says we have no money, we're broke.
Yeah, yeah.
And the school says we need $1 billion increase.
Right, yeah, then we need 2 or 3%.
And then when it
something
comes
like that.
down to push comes to shove, Craig and his administration and our finance group sit and discuss
Gonna
it.
hammer it out, gotta figure it out,
And
right?
it's, right now, the discussion is 0.5%.
Wow.
We've
That's
come
good.
back and said to the school committee, you have the best schools in the world. You have the best teachers in the world,
Yeah.
the best programs in the world. But we have $100. Here's your $60.
Yeah. We gotta figure it out, right? Like, you gotta hammer it out.
And instead of going to war, like you see some of these other towns,
Yes,
or
impasses.
going to use profanity with a 2.5 increase, the school initially came out with, well, we can't get to 2 yet, but we're at 2.7.
Yeah,
to me, that's an amazing attitude, because the school administration is there to advocate for the schools.
Yes, right, exactly, right. That's their job. They're advocating for the kids and then the teachers
But they're
and
not
the
turning
families.
around saying, we've been living on 6 and 7%, 9% increases a year.
Yeah.
We can't live on 2%,
Yeah.
3%.
No, and that's the difference. Like I noticed that right away when I came here. There was just a different flavor and a different attitude. But I always use when I talk about it, it's an identity, right? Milford has an identity of teamwork and collaboration. Yeah, do people squabble? Of course they do. Do people argue? Yeah, it's like a family, right? Like,
Well, I mean,
but
if
Milford
Chris
finds a way to
Wilson
get there.
and Craig didn't push for the school as part of the administration,
Yeah.
shame on them.
Right, no, and that's what he's doing, and that's what he has to do, and that's a good leader, right? Like
But it's
advocating,
it's
for everybody,
admirable
K to
that
12.
he'll push, but understand, reality is, if we could give you money, the years that we could,
Yeah, you guys did.
we did.
But there was a trust there, too. There's that trust and that collaboration that I'm going to say like 95 to 96% of the towns don't have. And I used to say this as often as I could during my 12 years, because I wanted people that grew up here to know that there's people like me that have been in other places, and people that have grown up here like, okay, this is what we do. This is how we do it. But I've always wanted to explain to the kids how special it was to have that support and have a group of people from all different factions, all Milfordians, saying, we're going to find a way to take care of the kids ages 1 to 100. K to 12 is most important, but we're going to take it where other towns are just like, no, we're not doing that. We can't. That's not appropriate. Or you'd hear people say, well, I don't have kids in school anymore, and I'm not supporting that. People don't do that here because they know,
No,
they
and people
believe.
seem to understand that even if you don't have kids in the school system,
It's
the
important.
number
That's our
one
future.
impact to your property values
Schools.
is schools.
Yes. Yep.
So not only is it, I mean, this is our grandkids, our neighbors' kids, our cousins,
It's everybody.
it's everybody, but
Yeah.
it impacts you directly because, we had a town years ago that almost lost accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
Who would buy a house?
Why would you consider that?
Why would you even think about going to a town? Yes, the housing prices are cheaper, but your kids are going to a school that could lose its accreditation.
Why would anybody who had the option to do differently not do differently, right? So it's important. It's critical. It's a great point that you make. Like, that's huge.
Now, besides having to learn Portuguese,
I'm still trying to. Oh my gosh! Yes, even my 12
I
years.
mean, going to New Beige,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the percentage is, but it's got to be high of Portuguese
It is. Yeah.
descendants.
Yeah. There's 7 languages in New Bedford that we translate into. I know Milford has 3 or 4 when we would send things out. Yeah, I'm working. I always had trouble learning Portuguese here because it's so fast. I'd learn a couple of words. Like I knew in the stands, if I heard a couple of zing words, I'm like, "Oh, that's not a good word. Somebody needs to go tell." Lori Pinto helped me learn that because she speaks 3 languages, and she was the admin assistant for athletics for 7 or 8 years of my time, 8 or 9 actually, and other people would help me too. But like you'd hear like, "Oh, that's not good." Can I tell you a funny story? In a couple of our soccer games, boys and girls, over the years, the kids would speak Portuguese, right? And because most of them could communicate with each other, right? And it was an advantage. It was if the other team didn't speak it. Well, at halftime, one of the referees was from Rentham. I grew up in that area, right? He grabs me, he goes, "Pete, come here, I want to talk to you." And he goes, "Listen, tell your boys to stop calling me names." I go, "Who's doing that? What are you talking about, right? We don't do that here in Milford." He goes, "I speak Portuguese, Pete." I went, "Oh." So I went over and grabbed the captains and the coaches, and I said, "Hey, listen to me. This guy speaks Portuguese. Stop saying he's an idiot. He's a bleepity bleep, And we all had a good laugh, and so did he. But I had forgot that he was Portuguese. And he, at the end of the game, high five, hug, and he goes, "That was hysterical." He goes, "They said things that I haven't heard in 20 years." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
We had that once.
Great story, right?
When I was coaching Maple. So the team was from all areas.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
played a team that had heavy Portuguese, Brazilian influence.
Mm-hmm.
at halftime, the coach walked up and said,
Oh my
"Which
gosh.
one of you speaks Portuguese?"
Oh no.
And I looked at him. I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because I'm shouting orders. Usually I get away with it. I can shout them in Portuguese,
Yeah.
and nobody understands. But when I shout orders, all of a sudden you start shifting.
You folks are moving. You're adapting.
You're
Yes,
adapting
yes.
to my strategy."
Isn't that awesome? That's
And I
awesome.
laughed like heck because, Portuguese was my first language. So.
Yeah.
But it was just funny when he walked over. He said, "One of you is a Portuguese speaker."
Because and you're telling your kids to chant. That's awesome. It's such a cool advantage. But just funny stuff like that over the years is just good stuff.
Advantage or disadvantage to have a population as high in migrants as we have?
Oh, I think you can look at it from like 7 different angles.
Well,
right?
not from the socioeconomic and all, but from
Right.
an athletic point of view.
From an athletic point, again, like being brutally honest and transparent, it's great for some sports. Great. Our boys' soccer, our boys' volleyball, they benefit tremendously because a lot of the boys are well versed in both. We are a powerhouse in both, mostly because the coaches work hard, or largely because Coach Pinto, Antonio Pinto, Mike Da Silva, and then you've got Andrew Manini and his crew that Tammy Weber come and go. Throughout, she's a Milfordian, and Kelly, and it's just, I think it's an advantage for the most part, right? In particular sports, would we like to see some of our kids with a more challenged socioeconomic background play some of the? We would. We're starting to see some of the gals go out for soccer. So we've been working on that for a couple of years. We've put some things in place with community use and with our programming at the middle school. Would we like to see a more diverse type of maybe basketball teams or track teams? Or yeah, we would. But I think that's on the horizon. I think it's coming. But I think growing up in a diverse environment is a great advantage because that's the real world, right? Like that's the city. That's Boston. That's Providence. That's when you work anywhere you're going to get a job. Diversity has sort of diffused in this country, and it's a good thing that it has because that's.
Well, Milford's changed because when I was a kid, when I was 8, 9 years old, I wanted to play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
There was one soccer team in Milford.
Yep.
It was the Portuguese club.
Yep.
And if you
And I
weren't
bet they were
born,
really good.
yeah, if you weren't born kicking a soccer ball,
Yeah.
you're not going to make that team.
Yes. Yeah.
So we had to go to Franklin.
to play.
play.
Yeah. And I'll bet the guys that didn't make the team here back then were still really, really good, right?
I thought I was reasonable,
Yeah.
but again, when you're going up against kids who have been in goal their whole lives in soccer, I didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
But some of it too was the culture, especially when you say you're getting the women involved. Because I had one family that I was fortunate that I had the same group of girls out of 16 that I coached. At least 8 or 9 played for me for 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And there was one family that the father never showed up except once in a blue moon. And you could see the difference in his daughter.
Yes. When he came. Yes.
So I walked up to him, I said,
That's a good point.
you must be very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
He looked, he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're giving up hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarship."
Yeah.
He goes, "I don't understand." I said, "Your daughter has the talent to play
Yep.
and to get a scholarship for college. But that little extra that makes her
when
special
he's there.
is when you're there watching her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got to assume that you don't care about money. Never mind
What
care
a
about
great
your
way-
daughter's
Yeah. Playing
playing
oh my
time in her.
gosh. Oh.
He never missed a game after
I was
that.
going to say, what a great positive spin to sort of like,
I wanted to grab him by
leverage.
the shirt and say,
Yeah.
don't you realize how much it means?
Yes.
Because when I grew up, my mother and father didn't know much about English. But my father, whenever somebody told him, you have to go to the school for some kind of event to support your son, he put on his little hat, put
Yeah.
on his coat, he
Yep.
sat in the auditorium, had no clue of what was going on.
Right. But he went.
But he
And
went.
did
He
it.
was
did it.
there.
He knew he had to.
And I hope he understood how much it meant to me to look out in the auditorium
Just see him there.
and see him there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the culture, sometimes you have to kick it in the butt.
No, you do, and we same situation. We had kids that went through the program all 4 years where, if we were fortunate, the parents were able to show up for senior night, and then there was other, families whose kids, whose parents, guardians, who they didn't miss a game. Didn't
Yeah.
matter. Could be pouring rain, minus 10 degrees. They were there because they were, and I always tried not to judge because some of those parents were working and they had to, right? And then there were some who just probably chose not to show, and that's not the best situation. And then there was the parents who got out of work early, even if they lost money, because they said, "I'm gonna see my kid play."
Well,
and
we
that's
always
awesome.
had a touch of feelings for the single mothers.
100%. Oh,
Because
yes.
I don't know how they did it,
Me
but
neither.
you'd see these mothers with 2 and 3 kids,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd come in and apologize. I got to drop my daughter off. I can't stay. It's like, don't worry, I'll take her home for you.
Yes, yes.
You know,
we'll handle this.
We
All the
were
extra
lucky there
stuff.
was 3 against 2. My mother lived with us, so it was my darling bride, my sainted
Oof.
mother, and I against 2 daughters.
Yes, yep.
So we could cover the schedule.
You had it all. Yeah, yeah.
But
And
to
it's
be
good
1
have that
against
help.
3 amazed me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And sometimes you mean well. Like there was a practice where this older gentleman, or older, our age, was sitting at the corner of the pitch staring at my girls. Now, these were my girls. They weren't, but, after
But they become family. I know
40
from
weeks a
coaching,
year we
yeah.
practiced and played soccer.
Yes, yeah.
They were my girls. And every week we went out to dinner. They were my girls. And they got this stranger staring. So I walked up to him and I said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "No, I'm just watching." I said, "Please don't take this wrong, but why are you watching my girls?"
Right, right.
He said, "My daughter's
Give me
playing."
an answer, bub.
And I looked, I said, "Well, there's no girl on this pitch that hasn't played for me for at least 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Which one is yours?"
Yeah, right, right.
And luckily, one of the girls came up and said, "Coach, that's my father."
Okay, good, good. But good for
This
you to
is-
be a little protective.
But then all of a
Can
sudden,
live
I
with
felt
that.
like saying, I can't open my mouth, but
Yeah,
this girl's been playing for me for over 5 years,
Where
and
you
this is the
been?
first time I've seen you.
right?
Not at a game, not
my
at
gosh.
practice, not at playoffs.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of it is the culture.
No, I agree. And that's a really good point, too, because there is a culture of maybe not observing or not being there. That's an American culture, right? Like, we definitely do that here where my parents didn't miss a soccer match. They didn't miss a baseball game, didn't miss a cross-country race, track race, any wrestling. My parents didn't miss any of that. And if we traveled to New York or somewhere for playoffs or my parents didn't like leaving the town. But they went because they knew, like, this is the last chance we have. He might not compete. You just don't know. But they loved it. They get in. It's almost like a cult. It's like a positive cult, like the parents that follow. Like, I mean, another great example, right, for the folks out there. The last couple of years we've been playing Martha's Vineyard in girls soccer, and the coaches and the kids love going. And then we added field hockey this year because it made sense. So we're taking our varsity and JV soccer, varsity and JV field hockey. And what do you know? Like the last couple of years, the parent,
That's
support
great.
just grows and grows and grows. We rolled into Martha's Vineyard this year. We had more parents than they did. We had, and I love the Milford crew of this because this is how they roll, and I love it. They scheduled to bring their cars and trucks over. They back up to the field. The truck beds are dropping. People are cooking. They're just, they know how
It's
to
like
roll.
a Patriots priest game.
Yes, yes. And I just walked, and I was so happy and proud to be part of this organization because, listen, we'll go to Nantucket, we'll go to Martha's, we'll go to Hawaii. Doesn't matter. The parents and the grandparents and the guardians and the brothers and sisters, they're going too, and that's culture you talk about. And it was just those were fun. I'm gonna miss those times. It was fun.
Is it hard to get coaches?
It's harder now. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, we're paying them an exorbitant amount of money.
I know, $1 an hour, right? Like it really, and you know what, Milford, not for nothing, Milford does pay well. We are competitive. One of the things that I've always loved about this
Well,
town.
Pete, let me pay well.
Yes.
I'm a coach for soccer.
Yeah.
What do I get paid as a stipend?
Couple $1,000 for like
And
12
for
weeks.
how many hours a week for 3 months?
You're looking at 2 hours of practice every day, 6 days a week. Games, you're looking at 3-4 hours, right? If we're traveling, that can be 5 or 6 hours away games, right? And then, but I think what a lot of people forget, and it's just, why would anybody think about this? practice isn't just practice. We compete in the most difficult league in New England. You're designing like every 12 to 15 minutes, sometimes 10 to 12 minutes of every 2-hour practice. And that prep time takes time too. And then you're watching video. Everybody, even soccer, basketball, pick any sport you want. Even wrestling now, we're watching video of the opposition to see what does this kid do in this situation? What does that kid do? There's a lot that goes into it. So it's more than a part-time job. It's almost like if you're teaching or you have another job. It's almost like another quasi full-time job. But I got to be honest, like in the 12 years that I had worked here, like the first 8 or 9 years were not challenging to find coaches. And other towns, like the last 5 or 6 years in the league, at league meetings, the athletic, hey, if you got a lacrosse coach or you got a swim coach, let me know if there's somebody you couldn't hire because you didn't have space. The last 2 or 3 years, that did infiltrate Milford. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Like really you're drawing from a small gene pool. You're looking at retired people, independently wealthy, and teachers, right? Like, or people that get out at like 2 o'clock. Who does that except for teachers?
I was going to say, you have to take the afternoons off.
Yeah, and maybe the fourth group would be folks that own their own business, right? So that's not a lot of people. So we relied heavily. I will say this, and I'm very proud of this. We are on a very short list in the entire country, United States of America, because we track these things in the athletic world. Milford, when I left, we had a 93% of coaches who worked in the district. Now, nationally, it's anywhere from 8 to 23%. That's considered good. If you could get to 50%, that was considered excellent, right? So 93 put us probably in the top 3% in the United States of America. 5% definitely. And I was proud of that, and the town is proud of that. Administration, our superintendents, our principals all liked. We wanted that. We were all on the same page. We wanted Milfordians coaching Milfordians because there's an authentic piece. There's like an extra 2 or 3% of energy and sort of just emphasis. You just can't buy. If they wore red and white or they're part of the town, there was a different energy that you could just feel. And we were always proud of that. But it's still hard now because, people are changing. It's hard to work 25, 30 hours a week when you're doing something else. There is a heavy parental influence now where parents are checking in. How come my kid's not playing? Not as much in Milford. I can't say it was a huge challenge, but it's growing across the country. In other towns, it's a big problem. And it just, you rope the money into it. Again, Milford, we felt like we were the highest paying in the area. We always wanted to make sure that we had a better salary than Hopkinton, Franklin, and King Philip, because that's who we're competing with, right, for coaches. We never wanted to have somebody say, oh, I got a better deal. Because, again, they're right down 495. KP and Franklin are right down 495. Hopkinton's 7 minutes down the road. So we were always very, very proud of the fact that we had a higher financial offer than a lot of the other high schools in the area. Medway's right there. Medfield's not too far away. And we always felt like, and again, that's finance committee, that's school committee, that's superintendent, everybody, that's principal. Everybody was on the same page. Let's make sure that if we want somebody, we're going to get them, right? Our facilities are fantastic, especially the outdoor facilities, right? And then the finance, and then not for nothing, like I was a pretty well-known athletic director in the state, New England, and had a good reputation, and especially at the MI, I was on a lot of major committees, so people had trust in what we were doing here. So if we were competing with Hopkinton or Franklin, we usually got them. We usually got those people.
And I don't mean to
that,
contradict your point that we pay well. We pay well for the position.
Yes.
In the comps.
Yes.
But when I start looking at how many hours, 10 hours a week of practice, 2 hours a week of game, 4 hours a week of
traveling.
Mm-hmm. Half a dozen hours a week of planning. You're talking about $5 an hour, $6 an hour.
You are. No, it's below minimum wage. No, and I appreciate the clarifier. We pay better than everybody else, but it's not, and I've always said this. I've said this out loud at meetings, I'm on record here saying it. Coaches don't coach for the money.
No, they can't.
They coach because they love kids and they love the sport.
If you were coaching for the money, you could go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes.
Get $12, $15 an hour,
Yep.
so 2 to 3 times the amount,
sir. Yeah.
with I won't say no responsibility, but
Your only responsibility is when you're working.
making
work-
coffee.
That's it. Don't whatever the prep is. You don't leave and get phone calls, texts,
Sign
emails.
out, you'll go home, it's
That's
done.
it. You're not checking in with coaches. You're not checking in with players, kids on the team, parents, grandparents. People want to know when's the bus leaving. Saturday morning, all that fun stuff. And it's just part of the gig, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
When you compare Milford to other towns, discipline-wise, are we better off, same, worse off with discipline issues of athletes?
I'd say we're better, and I think we have a great reputation in the league, in the state. I think, the MIA would say, this is true. Like when they wanted to train new ADs who wanted to host playoff games, they would send them to watch us during the regular season. I never told anybody, but I'd see an AD, 2 or 3 up in the stands quietly watching, or during playoffs, because they want people who know what they're doing. We had a great event staff, still do. We did things by the book. Like if you had an away game, you're supposed to have 2 administrators and the AD. And 2 or 3 crowd control. We always did it the right way. A lot of towns don't, right? But when it comes to expectations, as far as behavior, in the Leadership Academy, we would work with the captains over the summer and set the expectation. The coaches knew the expectation. It was, hey, we're representing Milford, the Hockomock League, and ourselves. And we're also representing all the people that put on the uniform before us. That's a big deal. The Milford mythology was a big deal. We talked about it all the time. And that's our third core value, Scarlet Hawk 24/7. I used to say to the kids, you go to dinner, go catch a movie, whatever, you're on vacation, you're not wearing red and white, guess what? You're wearing red and white.
You were still wearing
Because
it.
people recognize you. It's like Superman or Spider-Man. Boom. You rip off the shirt, here it is. There's a big M right there. People know who athletes are. They know who coaches are. So I feel like we had a great – listen, do you have a bobble every once in a while?
No.
You do. It's usually the other team poking our kids, and they have to protect themselves. But I maybe I'm being a homer, but I think the stats would support that.
No, but if you think about it, the school system has changed because when we were kids, your parents sent you to school to be educated.
Yes. Yep.
Today, I think too many parents send the kids to school to be educated and raised.
Yes. That's a national. That's part of the wellness situation that I'm working with now, right? Like that's absolutely where it is. Like, it's not a knock or judging anybody. It's just reality. Like, teachers, coaches, really are raising kids. We're teaching them values, and manners. When in my generation, you didn't have to do that.
Well, the worst thing
You didn't.
when I grew up in school was if I screwed up, not that I ever did.
Of course not.
If
Neither
I
did
screwed up, put me in detention, beat me, do whatever you want. Don't call my parents.
Yes. Yep.
Because
Yep.
I knew what my father would say. My father never raised a hand to me, but if he got confronted with, like, I was in 4th grade at Woodland when I was on the Parent-Teachers Council, and this must be 10 years old, 4th grader, flipped off a teacher.
Oh, boy.
I happened to be in the principal's office going over budgets when
Bad
the parent
business.
came in. And I swear to you, if you had told me this, I would question it. The mother came screaming in, looked at the teacher and said, "What did you do to antagonize
Yes.
my son?"
Yep. It's not the way to look at it.
I was stunned.
Inappropriate response by the kid.
I don't know what my parents would have done, but
Mm-hmm.
I could see him saying, "You realize you've embarrassed the family."
Yes. Yep.
And that
Yep.
would have been the worst. Not that he ever touched me, but he could have beat me into smithereens.
And nobody would have said anything.
And it
Yep.
would hurt less
Yep.
than having him ever say to me, "You've embarrassed our family."
I had one phone call in the 8th grade because I didn't do my Spanish homework. The teacher called my mom. Let me tell you, when I got home after practice, I never missed another bleeping homework the rest of my life because basically, back in those days, right, if the teacher called, you didn't get asked at home, what'd they do to get you angry? What'd they do to make you respond like that? You didn't get a, what's your side of the story? It was, you better listen to me, young man. You've embarrassed the family. you've embarrassed your uniform, I better never get a bleeping phone call again because you don't get a side of the story.
Right.
You're wrong. And I learned, like, okay, listen, there's something happened. I forgot it at home. I did it, but nobody cared.
That was when my parents showed
Right?
up, 6th grade.
Yeah.
Well, what used to be a school, now is the library. I had no idea, but my mother and father showed up at school to see my teacher.
Mhm.
Because on my report card, I got a red
Scary.
4 in conduct.
Scary.
And they were worried that I was being disrespectful.
Run for cover.
I had to run for cover, but the teacher said, no, his problem is he talks too much.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
won't stop talking during class.
Better of all the evils
Of all
that they
the
could have
evils.
shared, right?
But it was the attitude. I mean, like you said, the teacher was the adult. The
Yes.
teacher was an extension of your family.
Yep. And you didn't get a say. It was, better never get this again. Don't ever get another phone call. And I didn't.
What do you think the biggest challenge will be for the person who takes over from you?
You know,
I mean, he's got a track record that's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, thank
What is it, 50-plus championships?
we were over 50 championships in the 12 years. And I give a lot of, that's mostly the kids and coaches. I helped set the expectations. And, I've always said, can we give 2 or 3% more in every practice, every game? Can I dig a little deeper? We always talked about
But that's
that.
you saying that. Candidly, if Milford had done poorly in academics, it would be put on your shoulders.
Yes, correct, yes.
As the AD,
Yeah. Yes,
you set the tone.
yeah,
You watch over the herd.
yeah.
So I'm not going to let you just pass off credit.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, yeah.
But now you got a new guy coming in,
Yes.
a heck of a track record behind him. What is going to be the biggest challenge?
I think, it was the challenge that I took on 12 years ago. It's you pass the baton and you say, this is Milford Athletics, man. This isn't so-and-so or so-and-so from wherever else down the road, whatever. There's a mystique here. There's a mythology here that goes back 50, 60 years. And I knew that taking that on 12 years ago when, my going joke was I was born at Milford Hospital and it took me 40 years to come home. I was adopted. I was brought home. So was I born here? Yes, I was. Did it take me a while? But I always felt a kindred spirit to Milford, and I felt like the community adopted me and took me in and treated me as one of your own, and I appreciate that. I'm gonna appreciate that the rest of my life and try to stay involved where I can. I think the biggest challenge is going to be keep running forward, right? Like keep relentless pursuit of excellence and keep the expectations. We always said we practice, plan, and play to win. I don't care if we're 12-1 or 1-12 when we face that next team. In this league, the difference with the Hockomock League is every league has the top 3 teams that are great. We can play anybody in any league, our top 3 teams, and it's going to be a battle. We're going to win a lot. The Hawks going to win a lot. The Hawks going to lose some of those. But
does Hockomock have a middle and a low?
Bingo. Hammer on the head, man. There is no 4 through 10. Like in the other leagues, there's a mediocrity.
Well, in
and
the
then
other
there's
leagues,
a lower level.
You got a chance to say, okay, we're playing these teams.
Yes.
Whew, we can let up because we're going to beat them.
Yes, right? But in the Hockomock League, the difference is the depth. 10 boys basketball teams made the tournament in the Hockomock League. 11 girls basketball. Can any other league say that anywhere in the country? I don't know, but not in this state. No, because iron sharpens iron, and I think that it's just maintaining and elevating the expectations that it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the court or the field or the turf or the gym or the pool or the track. We came here to win, and we're hosting you to win. We didn't come here to get second place in this game, meet or match. We didn't, and that's where it's going to be.
If you're not in first, the view is always the same.
That's it. Second place is the first loser. And I never really said that out loud, but people knew I felt that way. Like, we came here to win. Winning is different. Winning is special. Milford is different. Milford is special. And I've always loved that attitude about this place. And people just put it on like a backpack and say, let's go. Let's go.
You've been planning for 10 years for the new high school. 31 it opens. You feel a little bittersweet that you're leaving before?
I do, yes. Yeah, you know what? I really appreciate that you mentioned that too. I was really looking forward to helping plan for the new high school, and one of my goals was to be here long enough to open the new high school. That won't happen. I'll come and tour it. And I'll be happy to come watch some games, basketball, wrestling, swim. You pick any sport. I love them all. And, that will be, it is bittersweet because I wanted to be around for that. But this just seemed like a good opportunity to get back to the wellness world and also get my kids back.
Well, like I say, it's a happy bummer. I'm happy for
Yeah,
you,
yeah, I appreciate that.
not only professionally, 3 high schools.
Yeah,
Wow.
24 schools, man. It's a lot. But you know what? I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to tackle it. I'm going to just keep running, run fast, and
Eat
run
the
forward.
elephant one bite at a time.
Yes, yeah, that's it. No away.
As we come to the end, what's your final message to the
Ooh.
residents of Milford?
Just, a heartfelt from the bottom of my toes all the way to my heart and my head, and just a thank you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for working hard. Thanks to the 3 superintendents that I worked for. Thanks to the 4 principals that I worked for. Thanks to the school committee. The finance folks like you. Just thanks to the whole comprehensive. Thanks for giving me the opportunity 12 years ago. Thanks for believing in my skill set and I want to say this. Thanks for embracing my craziness because I couldn't work in every district. I have just put your head down and run, and we're gonna make it work, and we're gonna find a way. I would say thanks to everybody, but thanks especially to the kids and coaches who just bought into that, and they either believed it already or they got on what people call the Boucher bus, and we carried red and white for 12 years, and the next guy or gal is going to have to do it. But I think my final message is just a kudos and a thank you, and just appreciate everybody doing what they did to allow me to do what I did. I consider myself a Scarlet Hawk for life, and I'll be around as much as I can, and I'll catch games on the road and games at home when I can. And
Is New Beige Hockomock?
No, they are in the Big 3. They went back to the Big 3. So, I will, and especially if New Bedford ever matches up, like sometimes in volleyball, there might be a football matchup down the road, like in playoffs or something like that. So I'd love to see that. But I will, once in a while when I have an afternoon meeting, I'll go catch volleyball or baseball or something and then, shift over. But
Well, good luck.
thank you.
Thank you for everything you've done, not just for the school, but for the kids.
Thank you.
And we hope that the Boucher bus is as successful in New Beige.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm hoping it will, and I'm going to work hard to make it so. But thanks to everybody out there. I appreciate everybody doing what they did and understanding.
And as always, thanks to our 6 loyal viewers for listening in. May tomorrow be a better day than today. God bless. Good night.